Another day, another story. It was a moment that would change history forever. July 20th, 1969. The world watched in awe as Neil Armstrong became the first man to set foot on the moon. But what led up to this momentous occasion? What drove this man to take such a bold and daring step? Neil Armstrong had always been fascinated by flight. As a child, he had watched planes soar through the sky, dreaming of one day piloting his own craft. He pursued this passion throughout his life, joining the Navy and eventually becoming a test pilot for NASA. In the early 1960s, NASA began the Apollo program with the goal of landing a man on the moon before the end of the decade. Armstrong was selected to be part of the team, and he eagerly threw himself into the task. The road to the moon was not an easy one. There were setbacks and tragedies along the way, including the devastating Apollo 1 fire that claimed the lives of 3 astronauts. But Armstrong and his team persevered, driven by a sense of duty and a deep desire to explore the unknown. Finally, on July 16, 1969, Armstrong and his crewmates boarded the Apollo 11 spacecraft and launched into space. They spent 3 days traveling to the moon, testing equipment and preparing for the historic landing. As they descended to the surface, Armstrong could feel his heart pounding with excitement and nerves. He knew that the world was watching and that the success of the mission rested on his shoulders. "Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed," he radioed to Mission Control, his voice calm and steady despite the magnitude of the moment. Then, with a deep breath, he stepped onto the lunar surface, uttering the famous words that would be forever etched in history. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." The world watched in awe as Armstrong and his fellow astronauts conducted experiments, planted the American flag, and explored the barren landscape of the moon. They returned to Earth as heroes, hailed for their bravery and their role in advancing human knowledge and exploration. But for Armstrong, the journey was about much more than fame and glory. It was about pushing the boundaries of what was possible, about daring to dream big and chase after those dreams with everything he had. "I am, and ever will be, a white socks, pocket protector, nerdy engineer," he once said. "And I take a substantial amount of pride in the accomplishments of my profession." And indeed, he had accomplished something truly remarkable. He had shown the world that anything was possible, that even the most audacious dreams could be turned into reality. And then the reporters came. "Reporter, Mr. Armstrong, what was going through your mind as you took that first step on the moon?" Armstrong: "It was a surreal moment, to be sure. I knew that the eyes of the world were upon me, and that the success of the mission rested on my shoulders. But I was also struck by the sheer beauty and wonder of the moon's surface. It was a moment that I will never forget." Reporter: "What motivated you to take on such a daring mission?" Armstrong: "For me, it was about pushing the boundaries of what was possible. I've always been fascinated by flight and exploration, and the idea of landing on the moon was the ultimate challenge. I wanted to be part of something that would advance human knowledge and inspire future generations to reach for the stars." Reporter: "What message would you like to send to those who dream of following in your footsteps?" Armstrong: "I would say, don't be afraid to dream big." What are your thoughts on the question of whether or not Neil Armstrong actually stepped on the moon? Do you believe the overwhelming historical accounts and evidence that suggest he did, or do you hold a different perspective? Write your opinion in the comment down below.